hit this mic.
So you guys, are you on the road to hell? Good for you. Good for you. Good for you.
Well, welcome everyone to a very special Police Services Board meeting. It's Tuesday, December the 19th, 2023, and we're going to begin with a roll call, if we may. And I look around the room, and it appears that all the members of the Police Board are here, so that's lovely. Thank you for your attendance. Item number 2 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and the recommendation is that the December 19th, 2023 Police Services Board meeting agenda be approved as circulated. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Mayor Grantham, second by Member Hahn. All those in favor? Passed. Fantastic. Number 3, declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any today? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, and this is the special part of the meeting. Number 4, presentations and delegations, and it's my great pleasure to say we have some police ceremonial presentations today. And what I would like to do is invite the Chief to basically conduct this section of the meeting because he knows what's going on, and we have some very special news to give the public. So the floor is yours, Chief Campbell.
Lots to do here, gloves and putting stuff out and wearing my glasses. Okay, well thanks Chair, and sorry,
that's okay.
Member Hall, I don't want to have my back to you. So this is a wonderful day. I want to thank first the board members for their governance over the police service. Special thanks, obviously, to our members who have taken time to come and help us celebrate the arrival of three new officers, and obviously the celebration of Sergeant Mark Thuss in his 20-year exemplary bar service, which is a couple years overdue, but we're still sort of unraveling some of this pandemic stuff, so we're still navigating through that. And especially, I want to thank the family and friends who have come to honor our new officers. And again, the 20-plus career of Sergeant Thuss as we celebrate. A little nerve-wracking. Lots of family and friends in the audience. My older sister is here, so she still thinks, "How did this ever happen?" But I know she's very proud of me, and I'm very proud of her. And there's kind of an element to today's ceremony that you'll hear a little bit about later. So. It's great. We have 3 new officers who have just recently completed their basic constable training at the Ontario Police College. From my left to right, you have Josh Diamond, Max Campbell, and Matt McNabb, who have all just commenced their policing career, and we're very proud. And you're going to hear a little bit more about them in my speaking notes. So this is a great tradition we have. Unfortunately, the pandemic sort of got in the way of a little bit of this, where we used to do a lot more of these in-person celebrations. That's all in our rearview mirror now, and we're very excited to get back to this tradition. And it is a real true honor for me to be able to introduce the new members that are going to serve this community extremely, extremely well, but also show them off to the board, to our community partners, and most specifically to our family who are here. As we will be counting on you to help support them as they make their way through their policing journey. I also want to make a quick shout out and recognize Jen McNabb, who is in the back, the only other member in number 1 wearing a hat, and she of course is Matt's wife, and she's a member of the London Police Service. I did text or email the chief there this morning to clear that you were here on other matters. You weren't here. We're not actively recruiting. I wanted your chief to know that. So sometimes that's a challenge, right? So, anyways, without as the saying goes, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the members. I'll bring them up one by one. As I say, I've got some speaking notes that I'll go through, and then we'll do a badge presentation. So I'll ask Matt McNabb, please come forward. You just want to stand right there. So it's a pleasure to present Constable Matthew McNabb to the board for presentation for his Constable Police Badge. Constable Matthew McNabb was born and raised in London and is joined here today by his wife Jennifer, who I've already called out, and their 2 children, Sadie and Walker, who I had the pleasure of just meeting briefly there in the hallway. He's also supported here by his parents Carolyn and Donald McNabb, his brother Eric, who's from British Columbia, so he's made quite a journey to get here, and his in-laws Janet and Ian Smith, who I also just met briefly in the hallway. I also want to acknowledge, and I heard this at the Ontario Police College, and again, it really stuck with me. Donald's mom, Josephine, passed away in October of this year, and they're actually leaving here to go to a celebration of life ceremony. She was 99 years old, and I'm sure she would have been very proud of you, Matt, to see you make it to where you are today. So I know my thoughts and my prayers are with the McNabb family and to your mom, Josephine. That's a wonderful journey. Constable McNabb came very highly recommended as an applicant, having worked previously with 4 Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service members while working as a coordinator and security guard at London Health Sciences Centre, otherwise known as LHSC. During our recruitment process, he was continuously described as being approachable, accepting of people, and having a calm demeanor. His wife Jennifer, a serving member with the London Police Service, offers perspective and guidance as he enters his policing career, building from his core competencies he developed during his tenure with LHSC. He's a graduate from Westervelt College in London with a diploma in Police Foundation and is a former student at St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Secondary School in London. We are excited to have Matthew and Jennifer and their family join our Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service family. On behalf of the Police Services Board, the Police Service members, and our community members, we welcome you to Strathroy-Caradoc. Yeah, much like a baseball game, I'm going to throw a curveball at you here and there. I'm going to ask Jennifer to step forward. It's a great privilege of mine to be able to offer Jennifer the privilege to present your constable badge to you. And say a few words if you'd like, Jennifer. It's okay to hug them too.
Can you stay still just for one moment so I can grab one? Now, hold magic.
So, I know this is the first one. After the presentations, I know the business meeting of the board is going to continue. I believe the conference room might be available for some pictures if family want to get pictures there as well, as opposed to stepping outside to do it in the snow. So, okay. I'll ask Constable Maxwell Campbell to step forward. So it's a pleasure to present Constable Maxwell Campbell to the board for presentation for his Constable Police Badge as well. Constable Maxwell Campbell was born and raised in Strathroy-Caradoc. He unfortunately isn't joined here today by his wife Stephanie and their 2 boys Mason and Lawson, as I understand they're sort of battling the flu bug at home. I can say they are eagerly expecting their third child in the spring of this year, which we're very excited to hear that news. He's also supported here by his very proud mother, Bernice, and his dad, Norm, who unfortunately isn't with us, but was always his biggest and proudest fan. He represents a growing representation of our service members, local community members who have a long history and extremely strong connection to the place they call home. A place where they attended elementary, high school, played local and competitive sports, and more importantly, developed and fostered important relationships while finding their way through life. He attended Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan on a hockey scholarship, earning a Bachelor of Business Administration degree. He played professional hockey for 5 years in both North America and Europe, was a director of hockey operations for Total Package Hockey, and worked as a project coordinator for 2 local companies in the construction industry. We're excited to have Maxwell and Stephanie and their families also join our Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service family. Again, on behalf of the Police Service Board, the Police Service Board members, and our community members, we welcome you to Strathroy-Caradoc. Sorry, Hugh, let me get rid of these. I'll now ask Josh Diamond to step forward. So again, it's also a great pleasure to present Constable Joshua Diamond to the board for presentation for his Constable Police Badge. Constable Joshua Diamond. Is it okay if I call you Ice? I understand that's your new nickname. Was born and raised in Strathroy-Caradoc and is joined here today and proudly supported by his parents Tina and Chris Diamond and his brother Ben. I'm going to pause this for a sec because there's a connection to your dad in that I've known your dad a long, long time as he grew up in Lobo Township, which is now Middlesex Center. But for those who do know me, I still refer to it as Lobo Township. Constable Diamond represents, again, a growing representation of our service members who are local community members who have a long history and extremely strong connection to the place they do call home. Again, it's a community where he attended his elementary and his high school, again, played a high level of local and competitive sports, and developed and fostered those important relationships that we all see and know are important in policing. He attended Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo, earning a combined honors in both criminology and policing. He's a former junior hockey goalie who has continued mentoring young players through coaching and private training lessons. He also has previous work experience in golf course maintenance, maintaining an interest in playing as well. Our recruiters describe Constable Diamond as being motivated, respectful, and a critical thinker who is passionate about community and public service. Prior to joining Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service, he volunteered with Victim Services of Middlesex, London as a crisis responder. Again, we are excited to have Joshua join our Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service family. Again, on behalf of the Police Service Board, the Police Service members, and our community members, we welcome you to Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service. Oh, sorry. All right, last but not least, Sergeant Thuss, please come forward. So it's my pleasure to present Sergeant Mark Thuss to the board for a presentation for his 20-year Police Exemplary Service Bar. In 2002, Sergeant Mark Thuss began his policing career as a police officer with the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service. Prior to being hired by the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service, he spent 7 years as a volunteer auxiliary police constable with the London Police Service. While with Strathroy-Caradoc Police, he has maintained several positions, including uniform patrol, acting sergeant, and use of force instructor, and master taser instructor. He was a member with both the Emergency Response Unit and Traffic Enforcement and Projects Unit, and served as the Community Services Officer for a number of years, maintaining responsibility for the School Resource Officer and Media Relations Officer. Throughout, he continued to foster strong community relationships and enhance his professional development through training courses and program delivery. He was instrumental in developing our strong communication network by introducing our presence on social media platforms, local print radio media, and active participation in school programs and youth sports organizations. Mark grew up in our community, and his family is interwoven throughout with touch points in the farming community, faith-based organizations, and community groups. In 2019, he received the Medal of Distinction from the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc for his volunteer contributions. In 2021, he commenced a long-term acting sergeant position and was confirmed to the rank in January 2023. He is extremely adaptable and demonstrates on a daily basis compassion to community members and colleagues, and is a highly respected member of the service. Throughout his policing career, he has been supported by his wife Erin, who is here, his children Tyler, Emily, and Adam, along with his parents William and Francis. This isn't a country song, but a country boy at heart, he portrays the police service in a positive light outside of his official duties. His commitment to professionalism and dedication to policing excellence have helped shape organizational culture, leading our members to grow professionally. Congratulations.
I'm waiting.
Any words you want to say?
I don't plan on anything to say, so.
That's a first.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much. That's all I have, Chair. Unless anyone in the audience wants to come up and say a few words. Seeing none? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief, and that was actually genuinely enjoyable to watch. I think, not to get too emotional, but it warms my heart when I see people inducted into the service, both people who have come from away and people who are from our community. I think it really is a testament to some of the things that are special about our community. We have our own independent police force, which I think is something to be valued. I think every day most of us see in our response times and the compassion that we get from our officers the advantages of having that. And for Strathroy-Caradoc, we punch above our weight. We have our own independent police force and we have our own hospital. And I don't know how many communities have that. I've said that before, but I think we live in a very special place and it's a special time of year. And I know that that ceremony just helps put me in the Christmas spirit just even a little bit more and gives me hope for the new year. At that point, I would invite other members of the board if they have any comments at this time.
Thanks, Chair.
My role here is as mayor of the municipality, and I've always echoed the sentiments of the chair that we're very fortunate to have our own police force, but I'd like to welcome the new cadets and Sergeant Thuss. Thank you for your service, 20 years, and I did comment to the young man beside me that explained the sunburn, the fact that he was a goalie on his neck. It's good to know. But, the people, the guests are here today. Welcome to Strathroy, and again, congratulations, and I'm sure you'll serve the community well. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Grantham. Now, at this point, we do have the rest of the business of the meeting to go through, and I do not know if people wish to stay for the rest of the meeting or if they would be more comfortable going next door and having photographs taken. And if that's the case, and if they want to have pictures taken with the chief, we could recess for a few minutes to accommodate that, and we could reconvene once all the photographs have been taken, if that is something that the board would agree to. So why don't we take a 10 or 15-minute recess and allow people to adjourn to the other room, take photographs, and then we can reconvene in maybe 15 minutes. Is that? Thank you very much. We'll do that. Thank you.
Is that the Chippewas?
Well, thank you, everyone. We had a brief recess there so that photographs could be taken in the conference room with our honorees and the new constables. So thank you so much for a wonderful presentation, Chief and Deputy Chief. All right, with that point, we'll resume the agenda. We're on to item 4.2. At this point, we're going to ask Mike Holt from A-Link Architecture Incorporated to provide a presentation on the police station expansion, an exciting project that we've spoken about before, but we can hear about how it's progressing. So, Mr. Holt, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so here's where we are today, December 19th, presentation number 2. And you can see the rendering on the cover page here. Again, we'll share all this with everybody. After the meeting, I'll email it to Mark, and then he can then facilitate that to everybody. There's a lot of information here. So, overview of what we're going to present today. It's really an update since our last presentation. So really what we've been up to since October 17th. There's 3 kind of key points that we're working on, and really this is an example how we work as a design office. There's 3 items that we're always looking at: cost, scope, and schedule. So what are we doing? How much does it cost, and how long is it going to take? That's basically the 3 elements of projects. So schematic design covers the scope. This is purely architectural at the moment, so there's no engineers, there's no structural engineer, mechanical, electrical engineer involved yet in the project. It's purely architecture with informed concepts of what we would be doing for the design. So for schematic design itself, we'll touch on the further development of the plans and the elevations and the sections, which are all really new information to the team here today. And also looking at massing and materials, glazing, and key features of the design intervention to the existing building. And then we're going to get into the cost estimate. So a good chunk of the time since we've been away actually has been with the cost consultant, who we have a part of the team. And they've completed a Class C costing. And that's based off of the schematic design. So what we do is we create a design, we work with the clients, the teams, get their input, develop it, put enough information on the drawings so then the cost consultant can then analyze and provide real-time costs on the project. And then it leads us to a meeting like today where we can discuss the costs and determine if it's in the ballpark to keep moving or not. So we'll talk about, the last item is next steps and schedule. And we can have questions at the end, of course. You can also ask questions during. I'm easy to work with. So programming, this is just a carryover from what we talked about at our last meeting, October 17th. So what are we actually doing? What's inside the intervention? So the intervention itself, it's a renovation to the existing police station, but also adding an addition as well. We'll call it to the east side of the building, even though it's on 45 degrees. So what it includes is the new 911 comms center, so a larger space, IT room, again, larger space for the server and the connectivity. New comms room as well, some officer work areas, equipment rooms, a few offices, and training spaces as well. And then the support spaces, we need them, washrooms, etc. A larger women's locker room, which we chatted about, and I showed you at the last time. A new ID lab, and then with shifting all of that over into the addition, there's now space for a mental health office in the existing as a reno. There's also a little bit of a lunchroom renovation as well with some exterior space that is covered, and a larger fitness room which is in the existing space. So the larger fitness room would eat into the existing lunchroom to creating a larger fitness room. And another big component is the indoor parking for the police vehicles, marked and unmarked vehicles, which is on the furthest east side of the addition, and I'll show you that as well. So schematic design review, what we're going to do right now is we're going to look through really the Class C costing drawings, just to give you a very high level what we provided to the cost consultant, and then we can talk about the costs. Everything is color coded, so hopefully people can kind of follow along. So included in the set that we provided was the site plan, the floor plans, The roof plan, the reflected ceiling plan, which is basically like the ceiling. So if you look up above, someone had to draw that and decide what the ceiling looks like in this space. So we draw that as well, and that helps inform the costs. There's the building elevations, which are the exterior views of the building, and then there's some building sections, which are, if you took a slice through the building, what does it look like in 3 dimensions? And then lastly, the renderings, which you've seen throughout, we'll talk about those. We'll talk about materials and massings and glazing and security and durability. There's a whole bunch of items that go into a building like this, and so I'm happy to discuss all those items with you. So this is the existing plan. I will zoom in on the drawings in and out just because I know it is far away for some people to see, but this is your existing plan. So high level, you know where the building is. You have a road around the building, a driveway. This the prisoner drop-off is on, we'll call it the east side of the building. We'll call the west side of the building Francis Street. The building is on a 45 degrees, so it is oddly shaped, but that's how I will inform you of the orientation. So there's the intervention there. So blue, and I'll zoom in on this, is the minor renovation. So what does that mean? It means there are existing spaces that are already covered, and purely it's a renovation of spaces. So a great example, I think I talked about this last time, is the existing 911 comms room, which I'm circling right now. That turns into a boardroom. So you move the equipment out of there, it moves into the addition. That space can be now used for something, potentially becomes a boardroom. That's what we're showing right now. So all the blue spaces are more simplified, lower cost items because they're minor renovations. The roof is there, the floor is there, the exterior walls are there. It's a simple work. Getting into the green space is the major renovation area. So it's still within the footprint of the existing building. But why are they major? Well, because we have an addition that is going to be next to it. The addition's in yellow. So anytime we put a building against another building, we have to look at the structure of that existing building for snow loading. Potentially the addition could be higher than the existing. We got to look at the structure in here. Potentially as well, maybe removing some walls. So a great example is that fitness room, which I mentioned. Right now it's a lunchroom and a fitness room, 2 rooms next to each other. We have to remove a wall, remove a door, redo the ceilings in there, potentially redo the floorings, put in a proper floor for a fitness room. So enlarging the space. So definitely not the same cost as the blue area. That's why we separate those out. Also in some of the green areas, we have to make this connection through into the addition. So we have, we're creating an opening basically through the existing exterior wall to get into the addition. So that is the corridor there, as well as we're doing some work down here. This all right now is your existing storage garage, we'll call it. And to the north up here, this green space is where your current prisoner drop-off is, which will stay there. It's just going to get enlarged because of the interventions that we're doing to the south of it. The yellow spaces, as I mentioned, are the addition, and the orange space is the parking garage. So both are additions in themselves, but both have separate costs per square foot. And so we calculate those differently in the costing report, which I will show you. High level though concepts, it's basically the addition is a quadrant. So we have a cruciform or a cross shaped plan with the staff entrance at the south. We're adding a bunch of parking over here, 20 new spaces to the south here. Obviously we're extending the driveway all the way around the building, so it allows for easy flow, deliveries, garbage, just day-to-day use. It makes sense to connect that around the building. In one of the quadrants, we have the training area off of the lobby. This all can be secured off. I think I mentioned this at a previous meeting. So in the plans, the development really occurred around getting a little bit more detailed and granular with our what we're actually putting in the spaces to help inform the costing. So I'll speak to those as we get further into the plans. I'm just going to zoom out a sec here so you can see everything. So there's basically the plan itself. I'll zoom in on it now because it will be easier to read for everybody and it has more notes. So the training room basically is designed for under 60 people, so 59 people max, because we only need to have one exit. This is what we're showing. If we need 60 people in there, then we'd have to, which you could fit, but we'd have to put a secondary exit, and it's definitely possible. Secure vestibule, secure lobby, washrooms associated with the training room as well as day-to-day use. but you can have a secure line here where people come in, use the training room, use the washrooms, and never come into the rest of the police station. As you come further into the cross form here, we have additional washrooms here. It really makes sense to cluster your washrooms together just for efficiency of plumbing, some cost savings there. And on the back side, we have the new women's locker room, which is broken up into its own components, locker space, and then kind of the toilets and plumbing spaces, shower spaces, to the south end of the plan. Opposite side here, north of the training room, you come in, there's a big workstation area, so 6 to 8 people, open area for officers to do their work. And then we have the entrance from parking here, so you come in and you are directly met with the sergeant office, so they have good controllability and accountability for who's coming in and out of the space. And then across from that is an equipment room where we have the gun discharge area, the armory cabinets, a cleaning area as well, gun cleaning closet, so 2 closets there. Duty bag storage here. So what we've done really, a lot of the current plan and the current design of the building, your storage is scattered throughout the building. It's really not efficient. You have to go to one spot to get your armory locker for your long gun, go to another spot to get your duty bag. It's really scattered. So in the plan, what we try to do is take all those little storage rooms and really create a more efficient flow and functionality for the day-to-day use of the officers. Included in this space as well would be some cabinetry, there's some cubbies that each officer would have, and there's also radios and tasers. All of that items kind of happen in this zone here. There's no doors either, so you come in, drop your stuff off, or vice versa. If you get out quickly, you can get the flow throughout and then get out of the space. Leading into the kind of, I guess we'll call it the northeast quadrant, is the communications center. So the new communications center, which has a supervisor's office, 6 desks. We're actually doing the second communications center now in London. We just finished up their backup communications center. So this is based off of the Bramic desk, which is pretty much the high-end desk for space. When we design as well, I like to put furniture in the space so you can understand how much space it actually takes up. So you do have a lot of flexibility in how these can be laid out, but right now we basically have 4 desks in the center and then the supervisor's desk. Definitely expandability as well. If you ever need to add a 6th desk, you have the space for it. So we want to make sure we're able to future-proof this as well. There's a little bit of millwork here on the inside the space, copier, printer, a little bit of space there for storage for the people using the comms area. Lots of wall space as well for the file cabinets and the TVs, all the tech that has to go in that space. And then some windows that face north, so you get nice north lights, but you don't get sunlight. So, and those could all be controlled as well with, we talked about a couple levels of window blinds, so a blackout blind so you can get complete privacy, or a filtered blind as well, which you could have day to day for a little bit of privacy. It's nice to have natural light and have that connection to the outside as well. There's a north vestibule here, just because the way the plan's set up, and we live in Canada, so it's nice to have vestibules. It's always great to have them as well in places like police stations for securability. It's a double layer of security. This one leads out, basically it's an exit. We didn't add any parking to the north side of the space at all. You definitely have the space to add it, but we've kept it out of the scope for now. We don't envision that many people parking up in that zone, particularly because you have your secure prisoner drop-off, as I mentioned, it's still occurring here. But there will be an addition to extend that out further that allows for to have our secure exit door out of the space, which is a code requirement, but obviously have the largest overhead door possible that we could have there to fit the space. The last quadrant, we'll call it the northwest quadrant. We have our mechanical and comms room, which are on an exterior wall. All the services come from the exterior. It makes sense to put those there. In the middle is the evidence storage area. Lots of rooms connected together with evidence lockers for people to drop off items for the techs to pick up. We also have this ante-room as well, which we've created for the ID lab. We've had more direction from the ID team. They basically told us what they want. So we put them in for scale again, just to make sure the space will function. So it's an ante-room that you can come in, you can drop off evidence which needs to be assessed by the ID lab, and you can leave as an officer. There's also a refrigerator as well. And this is a fully secure door here for the ID tech, so they can take it from there and then do their work inside. As we come into the addition space in green, there's a few other items that would be new since last time. We have a small event room here, which has the vent hood for testing, drug testing. So right now that currently is just sitting in your kind of garage space. So now it has its own room, and it can have its own separate exhaust as well. So a secure space to do that work outside of the ID lab space. There's also a photo room as well. So we're kind of chopping up this garage, creating a corridor to get into the lunchroom, putting in a washroom as well that's adjacent to the lunchroom. So for accessibility to use that, it's made sense to put that there. And we have the photo room, which has all of the equipment right now that is just jammed into the current ID lab. It's creating its own space, and also a space where you don't have to go into the ID lab, which should be a secure space to do photos of people. Last item is the lunchroom, very small kitchenette, not unlike what you have right now. Sliding door fridge. Water cooler, double sink, coffee makers, a little bit of millwork here like you would have in your kitchen, but definitely more of a durable grade as we would recommend for this is a commercial application. And then some space here, 8 to 12 people, not a huge space, but it would work for the shifts that you would have and see. So that, again, and some windows as well, which face south and also face out to this covered patio space here, which would be fenced off, and you'll see that in the renderings, in the 3D images. Fitness room I already mentioned, and the blue spaces I mentioned as well in previous meetings. Last item, I guess, for the plan, and then we'll get into a few other items, is the garage itself. So the parking garage is designed for 17 spaces, and it'd be designed as a one-way in, basically, and one-way out, just for the flow of traffic. We designed it though a 9-degree parking because it is the most efficient way. You do lose a lot more space if you try to do angled parking. Also allows flexibility. If one door ever breaks, now you can come in either way. 2 exits out of that space, which is required. This building would all be sprinklered as well, so it would match what you have in the existing. This is the other side of the plan here. Just because the building is so long and just fitting it on drawing, quite frankly, I had to split it up into 2. So you'll notice the drawings are always going to be in 2 pieces, and that just makes more sense for the scale that we draw things in. The other thing we added was the roof plan. So all of the white is new roof, and all of the shaded in is existing roof. So you can see the 2 roofs there. Just gives an idea for heights. And what materials those would be made out of for the cost consultant. One item that we did add as well was a clear story roof, and I'll show you that in 3D, what that means. It's to bring light into that cruciform corridor. The nature of police stations, they do become quite cavernous just because of the level of security you need to have. So one item we always look at is, can we get some light in from above? It just makes spaces feel better. It actually, helps people want to work in the space more when you have some access to light. So it's an item that we were looking at as well, and that's in the costing currently. Reflected ceiling plan, I'm not going to go too far into this. It's very, very straightforward in what are we doing on the ceiling. So we're looking at doing a combination of basically drywall, so flat ceilings, and then a lot of acoustic ceilings. The nature of, again, police stations, is making them as flexible as we can as well. With the ceilings being demountable, you can then run cabling and wiring, etc. If systems ever change, you do need to make sure that you're designing it for adaptability. One of the challenges in all of the designs for police stations that we work on is how durable, how permanent versus how flexible. It's a tricky balance, and we're trying to balance both of those. Case in point, the existing building, it's all concrete block walls, not super easy to renovate and change around. It kind of is what it is with the spaces that you have. So, well, we learn, right, and we move on. So in these spaces, we try to get them a little bit more flexible for the team. Elevations, really, these are more for the cost consultant, and they're not as sexy looking as a 3D, so I'll show you the 3D. But what we do is we basically draw up all of the exterior walls, and then we talk about here's what the materials are made out of, here's the heights, here's the general proportions, here's where the windows are. This all helps the cost consultants inform their costing, which we will get to. Sections, as I mentioned, that's the clear story window in the center, so to bring light in and push it down. We don't like doing skylights at all. Skylights will leak, but doing a window on a wall like this, so a scoop, or a clear story window like this, it's basically like a window in your house. If it's installed correctly, it should never leak. Unlike your existing one that has some issues. So here's some 3D images. So here's what you have right now, and then here's where the addition will be. So I'll cycle back and forth so you can see the difference. But scale-wise, you're basically doubling the size of your building. But obviously a good chunk of that is that indoor parking. So there's a side view, we'll call it the south view. There's the door to the existing garage right now. And then, so now we have our new entrance right here where my mouse is showing. There's your entrance. There's the windows into the training room. There's the overhead door into the parking garage. The one thing you have as well going for you is just the scope of roof. There is potential to make the roof solar ready, which just means beefing up the structure a little bit and then having the ability to add more solar panels in the future. You currently have solar on your existing roof. I'm just showing on there just to make sure we don't forget to having that there. Windows here into the lunchroom. A little bit of upper windows as well, potentially into the women's locker room, which could be frosted. So again, you get light in there, but there's no view. And then a covered patio space as well. And those windows, by the way, are very, very high up. They're not at human scale. Covered patio here with some screening. I'll go to the next one. So here's the north side of the building. Here's your prisoner drop-off right there. This window here is where the current communication 911 comms room is. Let's go to the next view. So here's the extension, as I mentioned, with the prisoner drop-off. So it's just bumping that out, allowing for that door, the overhead door. There's our secondary vestibule here with a tiny canopy. And then there's the windows there, which will look into the comms, the new comms space. There's a side view. Material-wise, what we're looking at is taking some inspiration definitely from the existing building. Just the nature of what we do as architects. We try to blend it, but we don't want to just do a straight copy, right? The existing building was built in the 90s, we'll say. Some of those materials we can't get anymore. It's very hard to match brick when it doesn't exist unless you're salvaging it. But what we try to do is at least maybe we can match it in tonality. So we're looking at potentially doing a red brick, potentially using the same light stone base that they have, so it helps tie the whole building across aesthetically. And then looking at using some ceramic panels, Ceramitex. It's a local London product, very durable. It's basically a stone sheet. It's a panelized product. So very durable, can take up to a high abuse. And then potentially having some blue canopy as well, which could be aluminum composite panel. And then all the glazing, the color of the glazing would be matching what you have right now. So that's the high level concepts for the schematic design. So I kind of chucked everything on the same page here so we could see everything together. And we'll go over the cost. So now we kind of understand where the scope of work is happening. There's your image there. What I've done is basically broken out the 5 major components of the costs, but we'll look at them further in detail. So there's the cost of the site work itself. So as I mentioned, we are putting in parking. We have to address the stormwater of that parking as well as the stormwater for the building, potentially some service and extensions as well. For the communications and mechanical electrical on the exterior. Obviously curbs, sidewalks, that's all included in site work. Minor renovation space, so our area is just over 1,000 square feet. So there's your area of the blue areas. That's basically the cost right there. Now, it gets further broken out into the cost consultant's report as well. Major renovation area, so 1,500 square feet. There's your costs for the green spaces. And obviously those are the lower amount of cost because that's the lower amount of work. It's just straight, I mean, it's simple math. Area, so basically it's 4.4 million for the addition of the yellow spaces, and then you add another 1.3 million for the orange or red space for the parking garage. And there's the square footage there. So as I mentioned, you're basically doubling the size of your current facility. And so that's kind of where the scope sits right now. So now we're going to get into the cost consultant report. So basically everything I just presented to you is what was given to the cost consultants to inform their costing. I'll zoom in on this because their format is 11 by 17. Sorry, 8.5 by 11. So there's all the drawings and everything that basically I just showed to you right now. So there's a bunch of items. What they do is they provide a summary, and that's what we're looking at right now, the budget summary, and then we're actually going to get into the budget, and I will show you that, which is a chart. But this informs some of the numbers which you'll see, which are a combination of other items. So a great example is allowances. So allowances are carried for items such as door hardware and access control, CCTV, securities and cameras, IT, inspection and testing. So when this is under construction, we have to have inspection company come in to inspect the compaction for the building, or the steel connections, or etc. Roofing. So we have a line item for that. There's a little bit of signage on the building, so we've carried that. There'll be signage inside as well as on the exterior. There potentially is a tunnel as well, which we haven't really talked about yet with the police team, but we have to strategize somehow on how the prisoner drop-off will occur when the addition is being built on the outside of it. So we've carried a value for that for now. And the other big item is the backup generator, which hasn't been assessed. You have a current generator on the north side of the building. We're adding a whole bunch of area and square footage. Can that generator supply for the whole building, or do we have to replace it? It's a question that the electrical engineer will review once we get them engaged. But for now, we'll carry something in the line item because it might not be zero, right? So that's what we do for allowances at this level. And see, a lot of these will get informed as we get further along in the design work and getting the engineers engaged. But we like to carry a good chunk of allowances in there just so items are covered. There's a few other contingencies as well that affect the budget. So there's the project contingencies, which includes an escalation. So we're assuming, based off of some of the draft budgets we've seen, potentially it's a 2025 construction start. So the cost then versus the cost next year, which is coming up very quick, there could be an increase. So we want to carry an escalation for that in the budget. It's the cost consultant that we work with, they're a contractor, they're doing construction every day. So we trust their costing. And actually it's the same cost consultant that we've used on all the projects with Strathroy-Caradoc so far, just for your own reference. So a great example is the fire hall, which was approved to go to tender. It's been tendered, it's been awarded. We had 2 levels of costing for that project. We had a Class C costing, and then we had a Class B costing. So right now what I have in front of you is the Class C costing. The Class B costing, what that means is, and I'll explain that in kind of next steps, is we get the further into development of the project, so we get away from schematic and turn this into real drawings and actually having the engineers and the team that we have with us start their work. We get about 60% done construction drawings, and then we get that costed out, and that will be the Class B costing. So the idea is, as we work further along, we're using the costing to inform the decision making so we don't invest all of our time in a project that is going to be over budget. So a great example is the Class C costing came in under budget for the fire hall. We did a Class B, it still was in alignment, which is great. And then we went out for tender, and I think you all, if you know the tender results, we had 10 contractors bidding, GCs bidding on the project, which is pretty unusual. It shows that they are hungry for work, and it was a very competitive bid, and it came under budget. So that's a good sign, and that's just the methodology that we use for all our projects. So if we look at the cost today and you say, oh my goodness, that's too much, then my question back would be, okay, what are we cutting, right? Scope and cost are directly linked together. And right now what we're showing you is the wish list of everything on a piece of paper. There's a few other items as well. The budget and design contingency is a 50% contingency as well, because as I mentioned, this is schematic only. Once we get the engineers involved, potentially there's items that need to be addressed in cost. So we want to make sure a healthy contingency is carried for that as well. I'll keep going through the costs. There's a few other items in here that are exclusions, and there's some reimbursables as well. So reimbursables are all under Division 1, and those are the items that the contractor need basically to construct the project. So it includes equipment and tools and staffing, and if there's any dewatering or temporary power, the site offices, the washroom facilities, that's all considered Division 1, waste removal, etc. So that's not overhead and profit. Overhead and profit by a contractor is on a separate line item. Again, I'll show this all to you in the budget, so it'll make more sense when you see it. Insurance and bonding, all projects really require this. It's 50% performance and 50% labor material. And there's all of the general risks insurances that are also required for construction. So those are carried as well in line items. This is a broken up part. I don't know if I want to go through this. I'll just do very, very high level. But each division, construction division, there's components of the construction built into it. This is just based off of the master specification. So Division 1 is all of this kind of front end, like what the contractor needs to build. Division 2, really, it's almost like if you look at it, like this is the sub-trades work. So there's potentially some demolition inside the building, right? Because we got to do a reno. We got to remove some stuff on the site. All of the earthworks, so anything to do with the excavations for the foundations and footings and site work, that's included in Division 2. Any utilities as well, so storm, like underground services, that's in Division 2. Pavements, so any surfaces that you would walk on the outside, curbs, asphalt, sidewalks, you name it, it's in there. Any other kind of improvements as well, potentially they'll put in some fencing, actually have here, the bollards as well, which we would need, the overhead doors, and any kind of landscaping, planting, that's all Division 2. Division 3 is concrete, so if it has to do with concrete, it's going to be in there. So foundations, floors, you name it. If we had any precasts, they would be Division 3. Division 4 is masonry, so all the brick that you saw on the outside of the building, all the concrete block, that would be the probably assembly of choice for this type of intervention, would be concrete block interior walls. That is in Division 4. Division 5 is steel. Anything to do with steel would be there. 6 is rough carpentry, so it has to do with any kind of wood, any kind of framing, and then millwork as well. So, for instance, all of the cabinetry and desks that we're sitting at right now, that's Division 6. Division 7 is really thermal when you think about it. So the roof, the insulation in the building, and then any kind of skin on the building. So siding, metal panels, etc. That's all Division 7. Division 8 is always doors and glass frames. Division 9 is finishes, so including drywall and tile, and if we had carpet tile, and if we had wood tile or wood floor, you name it, that's Division 9. And Division 10 is specialties, so toilet partitions, any of those kind of items. Furnishings, there's a few items that we would have as well. There's some foot grills that we would have inside the building, that's Division 12. And then now we're getting into the other divisions, which include the consultants. So as the consultants are not engaged yet, it's schematic only. We did make some judgments on what the systems would be for the project, so then it can help inform the costs. So all of those items are noted in here as well. There's a bunch of exclusions as well. As all budgets, we got to make sure we look at the exclusions. So HST is not included. There's a bunch of items, abatement and hazardous materials. If we had a DSS, which we might actually have to look at that, then we can provide a line item in the allowances for that. Winter conditions, underpinning. There's a bunch of other costs that potentially items that could affect costs. And those are right now they're exclusions. As we get to the next level of costing, if you decide to proceed, a lot of these exclusions will then be clarified in the next budget. There's also as well here, we always ask them for a schedule. Because as I mentioned at the start of the meeting, scope, cost, schedule. How long is this thing going to take? So they're estimated about a 40 to 50 week schedule for the work. And that's the starting point. As we do the next level, we would ask them to, again, inform us on that. As the scope becomes more and more real on the drawings, then the costs become more real and the schedule becomes more real, if that makes sense. So here's the costs. I actually put colors at the top here just to remind everyone the kind of the 4 areas of intervention. And just to the left of that is actually the site work. So it's a big chart. I'll go through it for everybody because this could be your first time seeing it. So across the top is the headings. So divisions, this column, the first column on the left-hand side, is all the divisions that I just informed you on. So Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. That's the number of spec division. Next to that is the description of what it is. So each spec division, as I mentioned, Division 2, site construction, we have a demolition line item, we have an earthwork line item, we have a utility services line item, right? They're all broken out and then they go across the page because each piece of work could have some of that work in it, and so that's how they've broken it up. Next, you have the division total, which is a subtotal of all of the work per each division. Then we have the total budget, which is basically the line item budget, which is a combination of all the spaces to the right into one category. So this kind of filters down the high level cost of Division 1, which is 3.5 million. And then that 3.5 million is broken out into these costs to the right-hand side. And as we go further along, now we've actually asked them to provide separate prices. Because again, we're making design decisions, we need to base them not on a lump sum. We actually have to know where the costs are coming from, just in case you have to edit them. So the next column over is the site work. Then we have the addition in yellow. We have the major renovation spaces in green. We have the blue, the minor renovation spaces in blue. And then we have the parking garage, which is in orange. And other items that are then further over, because this is the other aspects of the design that I just spoke of. So we have allowances, so the line item for allowances. We have the general conditions, which is that Division 1, as I mentioned, the stuff the contractor needs to construct. We have the contingency line item for the design contingency, the escalation, all those items I just spoke of. We have the GC markup, so this is their overhead and profit. And the last column is the insurances and bonding. And you'll see a lot of those items only fall in Division 1. Actually, those last kind of 5 categories, because they're all Division 1 categories. They don't fall anywhere else below. Where the actual work, you'll see in, for instance, site, and then all the way across to parking, those 5 columns, there is no Division 1 work, because all of that actually has to do with the subtrades work, which is all below, so Division 2 and down. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, we can look at the total costs, and then I can kind of work backwards for you. So currently the construction total is 10 million, just over. And then there's a bunch of items that we potentially need to add as well to it. There's the project design fees, which is basically the remaining amount of work to do all the drawings, the permit drawings. There's some contingency built in there as well. We have the building permit and development charges, which potentially this project could be exempt from if it is a municipal project, considered a municipal project. I know, for instance, the fire station was exempt, so you guys, but for now, we like to put it in because you can tell me to take it out, and then I'll take it out. Moving over, so that 10 million is broken out into just under 400K for the site work, which is this one. The 4.4 million, is the addition, the yellow space. The 190, I believe, is the green. Yep, that's the major renovation. So 190, 100, basically 100K for the minor renovation space, and then the garage here. And everything else gets carried across from the top, as I mentioned. So we have allowances, we have the contingency, which is quite high. But again, these items, as we get further along and do more costing, this item decreases, the 1.4 million, because some of that gets carried in the actual scope, and some of it actually we don't even require anymore because their drawings are more and more accurate. So hopefully that makes sense for everybody. Question?
Member
Sorry, Mike, while we're on this chart over here, I just wanted to ask, the HST is not incorporated in any of these costs, so let's say the 10.9, which an HST at 13% is like 1.4 million, is that because it's recoverable or is it included? I know you mentioned it was excluded initially.
Yeah, so great question. So in all the preliminary budgets, HST is always excluded, and it is noted in that support documentation, and typically they bold it as well because some clients can miss it. I guess I would push back because I don't know if it's recoverable from your own end. That might be a question for the municipal staff. They're pointing at each other.
85% is recoverable.
Perfect.
There you go. So knowing that, in the next costing, we can customize the costing to whatever it means, right? So we could show it and then show what the recoverable amount is as a line item. Like these are all numbers that can, in Excel, right, that can be broken out. Every project that we work on is slightly different, so, yes. Just to finish up, and then I'm sure there's questions. So, next steps, phase 2. So typically, in all our projects, as I mentioned with the municipality that we're working on 10 to 12, Rob, give or take. This is the same process we do for all our projects. We gotta figure out what you wanna do, then we gotta get it costed, and then that's the check mark. So we're basically at end of schematic design. We've done that, we've completed it. Now the question is, are we comfortable? Do we want to keep proceeding? Do we want to edit and keep proceeding? Do we want to say, oh my goodness, we got to shut the project down completely? Right? There's many avenues that projects can take. That decision we would kind of look for direction on from yourself. The next stages though, if we were to keep going, what we do is further development of the design, so we push it past schematic. So what happens actually, the plan turns into more of a realistic plan. So we put in the proper assemblies for the walls, and the floors, and the roof. All the items that we've actually already directed the cost consultant to do in text form actually turns into graphic form on the project. There's a whole aspect of site plan approval, which is required through the municipality, actually all municipalities, so that process could get started. What that means is we would want to engage the electrical engineer because of the power requirements for the addition. We would want all that high-level analysis to take place. We'd want the civil consultant involved as well to look at the parking and the grading and the site services to the addition as well as the existing building. And then as well, part of that site plan approval package, there's a bunch of submittals that we would make to the city. Sometimes it has to go as well to the other jurisdictions for their review, so we can get their comments back, which can help inform the design. As well as there's the building component of the project, where we make the building more real. So now we have the structural engineer, mechanical, electrical, sometimes landscape, sometimes not, involved as well. So it involves their work. And at the end of that, we would create a Class B costing set. So that's a 60% construction drawings set. So they're not the final drawings, but they're another milestone that we like to meet because that can help inform the cost. The costs, again, are become more and more real. After that, if we're comfortable, then we would proceed with the remaining 40% of the drawing. So that's construction documentation. So that includes getting the building permit drawings finished, getting the tender drawings complete and the specs, which the contractor is going to bid on. And then there's the tender portion, which we just finished up for the fire hall, which includes some analysis of the tender, any addendums that could come up. So basically the procurement and eventually the award of it. And then you get to the construction, which could be that 40 to 50 weeks estimate. And at the end, they occupy the building and project completion, then we move on to the next one. So all our projects follow this pathway. It doesn't matter how big or how small, actually. This is what we recommend. And we like doing this phased approach because people come to us and say, oh, I want to do such and such renovation, right? And I have a general idea and I have a general cost, and that's great. We do this, the front end, so we call it phase 1, which we just completed, the schematic design, get it costed, and then everyone's sitting around the table and you can make decisions on something, because it's hard to do that when you don't know the numbers, right? So I believe that is my last slide. I'm happy to open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. Very compelling and very exciting, very sobering as well. We have a question from our virtual member today, Henry Wiersma. Henry, what is your question?
Mike, I'm curious. Let's say, for example, just hypothetically, you know, we don't like this, it's too expensive. Would you walk us through a similar process saying, here are the areas where it can cut costs?
Yes, of course, yes. That happens a lot on projects, I would say 50% of the time. So a great example is we're working on a community center right now in Woodstock. It's an addition to the Southgate Community Center, so it's an adult community center, 50 plus. We did a Class C costing. It came over their budget. We had to cut $1 million off the scope. And so we sit down with our team and we strategize and basically provide them a list. The great thing about the way the contract we have set up right now with the municipality is the cost consultant is a part of our team. So if we need to get further breakout costs to remove pieces of buildings, we can ask them for that. And then we can basically propose a list to the board or through Mark, however we want to do this, of saying, here's some potential areas for savings, right?
Thanks for that, Henry. Over to the mayor.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and through you to, I'm not sure which one of staff will want to answer this, but the budgeting process, Strathroy-Caradoc Council will be the ones that say yes or no to this. Am I correct that this ultimately goes to Strathroy Council for approval? I think I know the answer, but I just need to understand it.
I guess that could go through me to either the chief or the finance director.
I can maybe take the first swing at this, and then if the finance director wants to add on, I'm sure he will. So obviously through the board approves both the operating and the capital budgets for the police service. Once approved, that then ends up at council's table for them to set priorities or projects. They certainly then can give the board direction as to, are they on target or do they need to sort of find a different target? The board then has a decision to give direction to the chief to find potential areas of savings. If the board decides that that isn't an area that they are wishing to go, then the OCPC is an appeal option that is available for the board.
Thank you, Chief. I have a question through to the consultant, Mike Holt. In dealing with these Class B and Class C cost estimates, at which stage do you think it is more efficient for a police board to look for savings? At the Class C or the Class B level?
Now.
No, I figured that was it, but I just wanted to be asked and answered.
Yes.
Because then, so now is the time
Yeah.
for this board to decide if the number that you've given us is acceptable, or if that we want to direct you to shave a certain amount off and then come back to us at the Class B costing with those savings in place. Is that the idea?
No, so it's similar, but we would find the savings as options, and then we would then present them. I mean, it could be a presentation like this, or it could just be through email. I don't know how you want to do it. You would want to make those decisions before we engage the engineering team. So I didn't speak of this yet, but the great thing about having schematic design, costs, and basically approval from the client at that milestone is I can then take these drawings and costing and I give them to the engineers and say, here's the scope. There's no questions of what are supposed to be designing or not supposed to be designing. So if we're going to amend the scope to decrease the costs, I'd want to do that work before I moved into design development and get the engineers involved. Engineers are very particular, and they love direction, and they don't like changing directions because it's all calculation based, if you will.
So-
You don't want to figure out the structural system and then realize that we're taking a chunk off the building down the road. If that
Okay,
makes sense.
so then for clarity at this point, if this board wanted to make a request to council that development charges be dropped from the cost estimates, would this be a meeting where we would make that motion and have that sent over to council so that in your formulation of the costs, that could be reflected? I don't know at what stage we would do that, but would now be an appropriate time.
If it's just development costs, yeah, you guys can go through the procedures and what makes sense for you. It's just a line item right now that's on the budget. If we're talking about like, oh, we have to cut a quarter off of the addition, and then we have to look at redesigning portions of that building to get the cost down, that we would need direction as
Yeah,
well.
I'm just looking at the low-hanging fruit. Member Hahn and then the mayor.
I had a few points, and thank you for your excellent presentation and the functionality, the flow. I can really visualize it, and I think it's definitely important and it's timely. And I really
Edith, speak into the mic, please, I can't hear a thing.
thank you. Member Wiersma, okay, yes, I was kind of looking to him and I overlooked the mic. So my question is, or first of all, my comment was, I really appreciated the presentation, the functionality, the flow, and the timeliness. I think we're embarking on a growth stage that we have to be prepared for this, so the timing is important. And I really appreciated also your comments on the staged aspect of the costing, that it's staged, or there was this, and I'm not sure on the class B and C or whatever, 3 and 2. My comment was, I have a few, especially on the garage. I wanted to get some clarity on the 17 parking spots, and maybe you could let me know how many, and this is maybe for Chief Campbell, and we have to look into the future, and I appreciate that because this isn't what we currently have as police vehicles, but how we anticipate the growth to be. But is the 17 parking spots, explain that to me. I'm not understanding that fully. Who all parks or what all parks in this area?
Issues with the short circuit.
Yeah. They just saw you done enough talking today.
It would be the first time.
And the chief moved to another chair, or are
None of these are working at this time.
none of them
None
were
of them are working.
Inika, is yours working?
Oh, yes.
This is working.
It's,
Oh, there's one here?
These two work.
the ones on the right-hand side?
yeah, so it's all in a chain. It starts there and goes all the way to Doug. So if there's a break in the chain from here, they'll stop working there. That's the problem. That's why Inika's is working.
Just,
I'm not hearing anything.
Annika, can you tell them what's going on, please?
We have,
Apparently, there's a break in the link, and so Chief Campbell is coming here to answer that question.
No. Well, let's work off those mics.
Yeah, this is yours.
there you
Oh,
go.
this is working now. The mic at the front is now working.
So the connection, that's,
I pulled it, sorry.
When you pull them out.
yeah, that's what happened.
When I was trying to, I realized, sorry.
Things should be, you should hear things in a moment, Henry.
Thank you. I'm counting that as my exercise for the day. So through the chair to Member Hahn. So the 17 parking spots would accommodate our current fleet of nine uniform vehicles that we currently have. We also have 4 what we call unmarked plain cars. We are certainly looking to add vehicles to our fleet as the size of our service grows, as we move to a uniform group of 6 members. Obviously, a slow but steady increase in both uniform and plain cars would accommodate at least the 17 spots currently. Actually, the timing is impeccable in that I'm just going to share a story from this morning. One of our plain cars that we had 4 members that had to go to St. Thomas this morning, and the initial vehicle they opted to take, the passenger door wouldn't close because of freezing from overnight. So the weather actually plays a factor in our ability to be ready to respond to calls for service. Certainly, we do have the winter weather in this part of Canada, and it does present some challenges. There are some security issues that we also see, as far as all of our cars have firearms secured inside of them. And when a member is coming back to the station and is maybe tied up or inside the station working on a case, again, those vehicles sit outside with those types of firearms and other kit that the officer has. So again, going back to the original question, the 17 spots is a little bit more than what our current fleet inventory currently is, but we are certainly moving towards acquiring some additional vehicles over the next 2 or 3 years that get us closer to that number of 17. The other thing, and again, I'll just mention this real quickly, a couple of those unmarked vehicles we do use in some of our discrete investigations, and currently our existing footprint at our current location, we actually park those vehicles off-site because we don't have space there within our current structure or parking area. Again, because we also have to ensure that we have room for visitors and others that are coming to the building.
I really appreciate that explanation, Chief. And I think it really speaks to looking forward to, and in fairness, I did not realize the 4 unmarked cars that are parked off-site, or that there's about 9 current vehicles and further vehicles that you're anticipating ahead. I knew that there would be more, but that explains the 17. Another question I had was, and I really appreciated the aesthetics of the police, the new addition. I noticed on the parking garage, it was, am I correct, is it all brick around, or is there some siding, or did I just see the one angle with the brick? Is that a discussion point just about the aesthetics? It did look very nice, but is that a cost savings opportunity?
Yes, that's definitely an area that we would look at for cost savings for sure. And to answer your question, it is all masonry for the outside of the building currently.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Another question I had was on your solar panels. I actually never knew that there were some current solar panels on the existing building. Where do they, where does the, I guess I would call it the electricity feed into? And the new solar panels that are anticipated, is that, obviously there's a cost to put that up, but what is that time frame? Just talk to me a little bit about the solar, and does that bring in some revenue savings?
I can maybe answer that question, and again through the chair to Member Hahn. I think we often refer to those as the Ralph Co. Headline solar panels on our building. I think he was the CAO of the day who was part of the introduction of the solar panels. As far as what it powers, I think it powers my coffee maker in my office.
Oh, is that all?
I'm not sure where it feeds, what grid it feeds into. Perhaps I might rely on Director Littlebarn or Director Dakin, who may have some further information on where the solar panels feed and where that energy is stored.
So currently, right now, we're under the microfeed program. Sorry, so we're under the microfeed program, so we're getting, I believe it's 35 cents a kilowatt back into the, paid into the system. So we did take out a loan on all of the, so we have over 13 buildings with these on. Took out a loan for 10 years, which is coming due at the end of this year. So we've been basically paying off the loan with the money we're getting, with probably about a $3,000 to $5,000 surplus that's going into a green energy fund. But after this year, 100% of that money then goes into that green energy fund. All the new, that microfit is now complete. You no longer have access to that, so now they have the net zero. So we've just looked at the solar as well for the fire department. So we do have the current microfeed over there as well, microfit, but we're going to the net zero. So what basically they do is they net out your bill at the end of the year. How much did you use? And then how much did you put back into the system, and you get a correction that way. So that's how the solar works.
And the second part of that question was, what was the plan, and maybe Mike, you could answer this, what was the timing of the potential new solar panels on that, the additional expansion, and what is that cost?
So there was none planned at the moment for it. It's really just planned in that we want to account for the weight of it on the roof structure,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Mayor Grantham.
Thank you, Chair. Just more or less a statement, and then I may make a motion, if you will. I'm going to put on my board member hat and firmly put my council hat over here. So I think as a board member, I'm comfortable with the cost. When I look at my responsibility as a board member is to do what's best for the police service board, and at this point, I'm comfortable with the Class C costing. And my recommendation would be that we take this to council and allow them to give us either a yes or a no or a budget, then come back later and look at any possible cost savings. Because putting on my council hat, I know there are other levers we could pull in terms of funding and grants and everything. So my recommendation would be, mine personally, I'm okay with this. I mean, the cost is scary, but I think if we take it to the council of the town, because we are in the multi-year budget process, and let them give us some direction, because I'm sure Director Dakin will be able to tell us where we could find the money. So I don't know, Chair, if you need a motion or just a recommendation, we take this to council, but I'll leave that.
Thank you, Mayor Grantham. You're thinking along similar lines. I have no problem with us having a motion that this board accepts for information the Class C report from our consultant, and maybe we also include in that a request that council would go so far as, in considering what this estimate is, that they also include in that they would waive as council building permit fees and DCs, so that would help us in our accounting of the real cost of the project to the municipality. But I will not make that motion. I will just state that and see if someone wants to make that motion or amend it in some way when they put it forward.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That was me. Go ahead.
There we go. I'm comfortable making that motion. I'll second the mayor's sentiments about the cost. Seems appropriate to me, although I'm not sure if there was a budget number in mind before this process went, but I guess we'll leave that up to council to decide, but I'll make the motion as stated by the chair.
Do we have a seconder? Member?
I'll second that.
Oh, okay, Member Wiersma. We'll go to the virtual member. I see you. Thank you very much. Any comments in discussion before I call a vote? Member Hahn?
The reserves that the municipality would have set aside for this anticipated building, how much is that?
I think that's an excellent question. I might, through the chief or the finance director, ask if there are what funds the police department currently has to put towards this project that might be in reserve.
So through the chair to Member Hahn, I think I'll start with some of the explanation, and then I'm going to turn to my partner here for maybe some of the finer details of what the accounts look like. I'm just going to give you the summary that I've certainly been kind of working with the Director of Finance since about 2017 with a very slow, deliberate approach about the idea of what does and when does a building expansion, what does it look like and when does it possibly occur. So we have been, over those number of years, trying to find some of our operating surpluses. There was the creation of a reserve account. Again, I'll let the Finance Director maybe give some estimates as to what that number looks like. We've also used that time to allow for, obviously, the creation of the development charge levy to also act as almost a second reserve type account. And again, I'll let the Finance Director perhaps give a more firm number of what actually sits in either of those two accounts.
Through the chair to Member Hahn, so our reserve account is in the area between $500,000 and $1 million for just a reserve account, and then there is money sitting, I'm not privy to the exact number, in the DC charges, but those would continue to build up. And obviously, now that we have a number, we can fine tune that in our next DC study to sort of look at how much we could recoup out of the DCs. Now, the idea with DCs is as development takes place, so when you buy a house, you pay DC charges. So there's a portion of those DC charges in this municipality is around $16,000 that you would pay. So a portion of that goes towards this project. So as we sort of move forward with this, that number becomes more fine-tuned, and then we can adjust that number that's required in the DCs to offset these payments. Obviously, we don't have 10 million sitting anywhere, so what we would do is we would reduce the loan by as much as possible through our reserves, and then look at funding the loan, construction loan, through either portion of taxation and then the DC component as well. So those two funds would flow in to accommodate the payment for a loan.
Member Hahn?
Hearing that response of 500 to $1 million in reserves for sure. In our motion that we just brought forward, is there an opportunity then, and Mike had brought this forward too, saying there are some possible cost savings, and this goes to Henry Wiersma's first question. Could we know where some of that might be, like before we go ahead, or do we go ahead with a proviso in the motion, or does council do that? I'd like to know where potential cost savings are.
Yeah, well, as chair, I may attempt to respond to that.
Okay.
In sending this motion over to council for the amount specified in today's presentation for the Class C costing, it might be helpful to accompany that with a report from the finance department indicating that if building permitting was waived, if charging development charges were waived, if we brought in the exact number that we have in the police department reserve, and if we included the amount that we could anticipate using in DCs, if we could have a total of what that number would be, then that could be weighed against the Class C costing when council is looking at that number. So if the Class C costing was it 10.9? If it turned out that we added up all of these other items I just mentioned in it, and I'm just going to kick out a term, if it were 1.3 or something like that, then I think it would help council in their deliberations when they look at the Class C costing, if they could see what other funds or savings there were immediately present to offset that cost before we start taking a look at the necessity of them sending it back to us and asking that we reduce the Class C costing by making changes to the structural project. But I think the first step might be the financial one with the information, see how council reacts. If they say, yes, that's fine, go ahead, then maybe we do not have to revisit the Class C costing by making changes. But if we do, at least we'll be hearing that from a council who's been fully informed of the accounting of the funds, or what it's going to cost the taxpayer. Does that make sense?
That's well said, and I would follow that process. I think that's a
Included in the motion could be a financial report on this coming forward at the same time. Mr. Mayor, you had a comment?
No, I was gonna concur, well said. I think, my thing is, as a board member, I don't wanna cut anything at this point. I wanna see what the council of the town comes back with and tells us what to do.
Yeah, I agree.
They may say, go ahead, right, Annika, and we're
yes.
good.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with that.
Yeah, but I think our fiduciary responsibility as board members is to get the lowest number in front of council as to the impact on the taxpayer for this Class C costing, and then they can look at globally the infrastructure projects for the next 4 or 5 years and fit that into the puzzle, if we want to call it that, and then we're going to get probably a better and more accurate response from council. And I don't want to anticipate what they will do, but I think if we can demonstrate that there are funds to offset the Class C costing and bring it from an alarming number to merely a challenging number, in light of all the other things that have to be done, we'll be working with the council and with the consultant and the chief and the deputy chief in a constructive way to try and get the biggest bang for buck. I have one further question after we do this motion, but is that enough discussion on that motion with the proviso that we ask for financial report, Chief?
Sorry, I just want to ask a question for clarification. Is the motion looking to approve the building annex as a 2024 capital project that is approved at the board level, that is then gives it life in capital discussions in front of whole of council, where obviously, as we've just highlighted, council has the ability to sort of identify or at least request the board to either defer the project perhaps a year or fine-tune the project. That was my point of clarification on what the motion is asking for.
Good point. I think the motion should reflect that this board is giving the green light for us to proceed with the Class C costing, that we're requesting council approve that number and include that into their capital deliberations for the next fiscal year, 2024. So it would be entering into our 2024 budget, but then council, I think, would get back to us and let us know if they're able to do that or if it becomes a multi-year, worked into a multi-year budget. In other words, where it gets in line in terms of other infrastructure requests being made. So in terms of the wording of the budget, are we looking to ask council to essentially approve, if you will, the Class C costing with the financial report showing the true cost to the taxpayer, and then enter that into the 2024 capital deliberations? And I'll ask that question through myself to the mayor.
No, I agree. We need a target, correct? So the target can always be revised, something to ruminate on. So I think putting in that and saying 2024, need a starting point. So I think that's a good starting point, Chair.
And I think the discussion between this board and the council is expedited if we do that. Then we will then find out what their response is, and then we will then begin to act accordingly. So I don't know who's writing down everything that's in this motion. It's getting, would you like a series of motions?
No, I think we've summed that up.
Okay.
As long as there has been a few changes, so as long as Matt and Henry are
Would-
agreeable to all of those changes.
Would you mind, and I hate to put you on the spot.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, goodness, I know, but I think for the sake of clarity,
Okay.
we should probably
Yeah.
put you on the spot and ask you in the best way you can. I'm talking so she has a moment to reframe her thoughts. I think there was about 3 things in there.
I will do my best.
Thank
If
you.
I miss something, then you
Then we can
correct
actually
me.
add it. That's the purpose of
Okay,
this. Thank you.
so, that this board accepts the Class C pricing to be referred to council to be included in the 2024 capital budget, and including the waiving of the building fees and permit fees, and to also include a financial report from finance regarding the DCs and the reserves.
To my ear, that sounds like everything has been wonderfully incorporated into a very well-stated motion. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
With that said, do we have well, that was the motion.
That was the motion.
And do we have a seconder?
We did.
That was Henry, that's right, virtually. Thank you, Henry. I see you, and I did hear you. Okay, with that said, and no further discussion, all those in favor? So carried. Thank you very much. That great deliberation, great presentation, great discussion, and it's exciting to see what's happening. I had one, Mike, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to, so, I mean, that's a good strategy because we work to numbers as architects. So if you say the budget's 12 million, we can work to that. If you say it's 8, we can work to that. There's concessions that obviously have to be made with the scope and the project as the budget gets lower, right? But we work towards numbers, so the strategy, in my opinion, will work out quite nicely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you indulge me with one final question, I didn't ask during the discussion. In the parking garage, given the announcement that after 2035 in Canada, only electrical vehicles are going to be for sale as new vehicles, have we incorporated appropriate infrastructure so that in that area we would be able to have charging stations? Is the electrical going to be in place?
So great point. That would have to be carried as an allowance, which isn't carried right now. A part of the solar panels, which we spoke of. Buildings need to be net zero come 20, I think it's coming very quickly. They're changing the building code right now. So all the buildings that we work on, we try to make as green as possible, as well as durable as possible, as flexible as possible. So obviously there's a cost to those. It's finding the right balance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the board thanks for your presentation today. And we look forward to the next chapter in this significant development in the life of the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service Board. Mayor Grantham.
Yeah, I've never done this before, Chair, but I'm going to make a motion that we've been at I don't mind the time, 2 hours, had a lot of business, and I know there is some business in closed session, that if we could possibly park the rest of the agenda until the next meeting unless there's something urgent. It's not my time frame, I'm just cognizant of everybody's time. I don't know the right terminology to use.
If we have concurrence by other board members on that, do we, let's get a seconder for that motion first.
Yeah, I'll second that.
We have a seconder, and I will then consult with the chief. Chief, do you have any objections to that, the board doing it?
No, I have no objections to that.
Thank you very much. Member Hahn?
Could we pass motions 6 and 7? Sorry, I have to get the right wording. Without questions that you... Oh.
No, that's right. You get the right
No,
words.
no, you're absolutely right.
You're right.
That we can pass them, because
Okay, well,
I
let's go.
personally did not have questions, so...
Well, here's what we'll do. Okay, so let's, for the moment, move on to communications 6. Do we have a motion that these be accepted and a seconder? Member Hahn, Member Hall. Any discussion on those? Hearing none. Any comments by the chief?
No.
Okay, call the vote. All those in favor? So passed. Move on to number 7. Review of monthly police service reports. Do we have a motion that these be received? Member Hall, and seconded by the mayor. Are there any comments on any of these by the chief or board members that need to be made at today's meeting?
Again, through the chair, I have no additional comments.
Hearing none, I'll call the vote. And that is passed. Thank you very much. And now we move on to number 8, items from Chief Campbell. Chief, is there anything of urgency that you need to be, that needs to be said about either of these items today that cannot be deferred to a future meeting?
No, so through the chair, if I may make a suggestion, report number 2023-17 is just for information purposes. That's just the announcement of the hiring of Constable Diamond, who you met earlier. I don't think there's any additional, at least I don't have any additional comments in regards to that. And report 2023-16 I think can be deferred as it's obviously parlays into the building of the strategic plan So that maybe get brought back to, a further meeting.
So I would ask that these be received for information and possibly discussed at a future meeting. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Member Hall, Member Hahn, all those in favor? Thank you. And it has been pointed out to me that I need to jump back to number 5, which is the reading and correction approval of minutes, and it's item 5.1, general meeting minutes, November 21st, 2023. Recommendation that the minutes of November 21st, 2023, general meeting of the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services Board be approved as written. Do I have a mover? The mayor, seconder, Member Hall, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you very much. Which takes us to item 9, inquiries or comments by members. Do we have any today? Member Hahn.
Thank you, Chair. I have 2, and they're 2 items that are compliments. One to the police services, Strathroy-Caradoc Police. Oops. Are you hearing me?
I hear you.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
So in October, we had a presentation, 2023 traffic safety presentations done by Constable Joel Pinkham and Jay Cartwright, and they followed up on a query that we had requested about the traffic safety, and it was an excellent presentation. And I was, this was October 17th, so I was really pleased to read on the My FM 105.7, and this was on November 29th, that they wrote for all the public to hear, and it says, I'm just going to recap what they wrote down. For the first time in recent memory, Strathroy-Caradoc Police are posting publicly on social media numbers and trends from traffic stops. Over the last year, police cruisers have been equipped with radar and plate readers. Some speed limits on area roads have also been reduced. And it says further, police monitor the municipality in 2 zones, with Zone 1 being Strathroy proper, and Zone 2 being Mount Bridges, Melbourne, and Delaware West. And I wanted to bring especially forward their remarks on, in 2022, the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services laid 223 speeding tickets in Zone 1, which is Strathroy, but it was really noteworthy to notice 870 speeding tickets in Zone 2, which was Mount Bridges, Melbourne, and the other area, Delaware. So, and it followed a similar trend. They also noted January 23 to September 23, and it said 419 traffic offenses in Zone 1, and 810, again, that Mount Bridges area laid in Zone 2. And I was wondering, and maybe Chief Campbell can bring this, let us know, since it was already brought forward on My FM in November 29th, I know that in the presentation they had a pie chart, and I'm just kind of showing you that pie chart. Do you remember that? And you can really see the blue, which is Zone 1, and the orange, which is Zone 2, of all the speeding tickets. And they even broke it down to, per month, how they arrived at 223 in 2022 and 870 for Mount Bridges. And I wondered if that could be posted to our Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services website, these charts. I know that from our previous board meetings, we've heard that there's been questions asked from especially the public on, are we servicing the Zone 2 area in enough detail, I guess. And I think this almost demonstrates the efforts of the 2 police services cruisers that we have dedicated to that area. So I thought it was an excellent presentation, and I would like to ask if we could include that on our website, and if there's any further follow-up that might be needed. That was my first point.
Thank you very much. Is there a question that you would like to make, or is that just a comment?
It was not a question, could we put that on our website? It was very detailed, but it was at a public police services board meeting.
Okay, so that's through me to the chair, through the chair to the chief.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair to Member Hahn. That information was shared amongst both print, maybe not print, but traditional radio media and our social media platforms as part of an ongoing communication strategy to do exactly what you had alerted there to, that we want to ensure that the community not only knows what we are doing, but they have an understanding of where those activities are occurring. In addition to that, we also want to share information about our increasing inventory of traffic radar signs that we've added into the inventory. So we are now up to 8 additional pole-mounted radar signs that we can deploy in various areas of our community, and working with the Director Strauss from the Roads Department, we are looking to identify where is the highest priorities to put those signs, again, to bring greater awareness and education to motorists in our community.
So that could also be put, that chart could be put onto our website.
Again, through the chair to Member Hahn, I believe it's on the website, probably in the social media feeds, but we could certainly add it into the website. I have a note to speak to Constable McIntyre to ensure that is done.
And just a side comment, maybe we could make a recommendation that with the police board's approval, it could be put on the municipal site as well
Okay.
for further information, because we want people to see this, and we want as many eyes as we can get seeing this information.
Okay.
Another question?
It's a comment, and it was just brought forward on TV, and in I don't believe it's been on my FM yet, but it's December 15th, and it's addressing the notorious intersection of Glendon Drive and Melbourne Road, and the lights that are going to be brought forward. I know we've raised this in our meeting here before with the fatalities, and I was very pleased to see the support and the interview that was done with the mayor on this this traffic light, and including it in the county budget, and also while addressing the growing volume of vehicles in that region. So just pleased to see that coming forward before the end of the year, that it's going to be in place. And it has been on the minds of all those residents, and the fatalities that have been brought forward. I'm just very pleased to see that, and I know we've talked about it at the board level, and I appreciate the mayor addressing it also.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. I've learned a few things, Annika, last year. Getting things approved is one thing, getting them installed is the next thing, so.
Yeah, we had a bit of a conversation about that the other day, but anytime you get the county to put in a traffic light is a big win, like we had at the end of 2nd Street there by the high school. That took a few years. It gets done eventually. Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments by councillors or inquiries today? Okay, seeing none, then we're going to go to item 10, in-camera matters, which is the board may move into closed session to discuss a personnel matter regarding an identifiable individual in a procedural matter as permitted by Section 239 of the Ontario Municipal Act, Section 35, subsection 4 of the Police Service Act, and Council's Procedure Bylaw. So the recommendation is that the board will move into closed session at 12:10. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hall and the mayor. All those in favor? Thank you. We'll now move into closed session. There'll be a slight pause.
You wish me to leave?
Is it? Yes. I Thank you very much. We're returning to open session. In the recommendation that the closed session adjourned, and that we adjourned at 12:34, the closed session, and that the open session is opening. So do I need a recommendation for that, that open
Yes.
session resume?
Yes.
So that, a recommendation that closed session adjourn at 12:34 and open session resume. Can I have a motion? Please, the mayor, Councillor Hall, all those in favor? So moved. A report of the closed session. Basically, we dealt with a personnel matter. Thank you very much. And the recommendations that the direction in closed session be approved. Do we have a mover? The mayor Grantham. Henry can move that one, and the mayor can second. All those in favor? So moved. That's unanimous. And then scheduled meetings at Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. Happy New Year at 10 a.m. Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 10 a.m. And Tuesday, March 19th, 2024 at 10 a.m. With that said, can I have a motion for adjournment? Moved by the mayor and seconded by everyone, but I will say Member Hahn and Wiersma and Hall, and thank you very much. That's the end of this year. Thank you very much. As chair, I appreciate the professional tenure of these meetings, and we are adjourned. There we go.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Same to you.
Christmas.
Sorry.
Have a good Christmas.